Assalamu alaikum, this is Rimsha Gulzar. I'm going to explain appropriation, which is a post-colonial theory. Appropriation simply means taking something and using it in your own way. For example, African writers use English, which is a colonizer's language, but they fill it with the African culture, proverbs, and tradition. So, in post-colonial context, we can say that appropriation is the strategic use and transformation of the colonizer's language and cultural tools by the colonized to express their own realities and challenge colonial authority. So, we can say post-colonial writers do not simply copy English; they transform it to express their own realities, traditions, beliefs, and experiences. Instead of accepting colonial authority, they make English serve African culture. Bill, Ashcroft, Bill Ashcroft, Gareth Griffiths, and Helen Tiffin. These scholars explained appropriation in their famous book, The Empire Writes Back. The title of the book is itself symbolic. Earlier, the empire used literature to dominate colonies. Now, colonized people are writing back to challenge colonial power. Next, I'll talk about the characteristics of the uh, appropriation one by one, which are written on my chart. The first characteristics is transformation of colonial language, mean writers challenge change English according to local culture. For example, in Things Fall Apart, HB uses African sentences, pattern, and storytelling method. Next characteristic is the use of local words, proverbs, and idioms. Means local language enters English literature. For example, in Things Fall Apart, HB uses the words like G, Igbo, or B. These are Igbo words with used directly in the novel. This makes novel sound African instead of British. Next is representation of indigenous culture. The means English writers protect native traditions through literature. For example, HB describes festivals, wrestling matches, folk tales, and marriage customs in Things Fall Apart. This proves that African culture is rich and civilized. Next characteristic is blending native and colonial forms. Means this creates a new literary voice that belongs neither fully to Britain or nor fully to traditional Africa. Assertion of next is assertion of cultural independence. Means appropriation becomes resistance. You can say the colonizer gave the language, but the colonized changed its soul. These was the characteristics of appropriation. Next, I'll talk about the functions of the appropriation. Appropriation is used to for language adaptation, means reshaping the colonizer's language. Next, for cultural expression, uh, expression or identity. Next is resistance to colonial authority, means colonial writers challenge colonial stereotypes. Next is hybrid culture, means this creates a completely new style of literature, which is called hybrid literature. Next, I have some textual line of Things Fall Apart by Chinua HB, which is the best example of appropriation. First is you can see on the chart. Uh, First is proverbs are the palm oil with which words are eaten. Next, when the moon is shining, the cripple becomes hungry for a walk. Next, a man who pays respect to the great paves the way for his own greatness. So, these HB, we can say HB writes in English. The novel feels African. Why? Because through these textual line we can say HB. Why it sounds African? Because of the words are African, Customs are African, the worldview is African, and storytelling style comes from oral tradition. So, appropriation in the end. We can say appropriation does not mean copying the colonizers, it means taking the colonizers' language and transforming it into a voice of identity, customs, and resistance.